I want to ask you kind of a hard question and maybe a personal question to start off our time together right off the bat here. So put on your self-awareness hat, your introspective hat, and just try to think deeply here for a second. This might be awkward if you are driving the car or you got people around you or you're at work or something, but hopefully this will be helpful for you. I want you to think about your dad, and what are the first things that come to mind when you think about your dad? Hopefully this doesn't stir up two emotions if you're in a really public place. I know some of you, even just the thought of your dad can be really emotional, for better or worse. But when you think about your dad, what words come to mind? What qualities did he have? If you don't overthink it, just like as the first things pop into your head, just say them, either in your head or out loud, or if you can write them down, that'd be even better. But just what are the first words that come to mind? What are the qualities that your dad has or had? I know this, again, can be a hard exercise. It's really crazy how such a simple question can oftentimes bring up all kinds of different emotions that we didn't even expect to feel. When we think about our dad, this has happened to me many, many times where somebody's asked me about my dad and I feel things that I didn't even know were in me. So it's okay if you feel all kinds of different emotions right now. I think that's pretty normal. Our dads, regardless of the relationship we had with them and how much time we spent with them, play a massive role in shaping the kind of person that we are today. And so it's totally normal that you would feel all kinds of emotions as you think about your dad. But go ahead and just kind of in your brain list out what are the qualities he has. Now I want to take it just a little bit deeper, if that's okay. I want to ask you what qualities of your dad, again, if he's alive, that he has or that he had, that you also have, for better or worse. There may be some things that you really don't like about your dad, and unfortunately for you, you think, I also have that quality. I really didn't want it. I'm angry or I'm frustrated that I have it, but I do have the same quality that my dad has. Or maybe it's awesome. Maybe there's certain things about your dad that you're like, I really love this about my dad, and praise God, I got it too. I got that same quality. But just think through the qualities. Again, it might take a second to kind of rattle your brain, think through a little bit and jostle some ideas and thoughts. But what is it that comes to mind when you think through what qualities does your dad have or did he have that you also have? What's crazy, as just kind of a little side note, is there's a lot of interesting and mysterious concepts around the idea that you can get qualities from your dad even if he's not around. Like my dad left when I was 3, and there are qualities of my dad that he was heavily influenced my personality. And it's like, how did he influence me? He wasn't even literally physically around. He certainly wasn't intentionally trying to shape certain parts of me, and yet he did. And so that's really mysterious. They're trying to figure out like DNA. How much does DNA play into that? How much of it is spiritual? I think the jury's still out on that, but there's a lot of different theories about that. But it's just really fascinating, kind of a fascinating thought to think that you could possess qualities of your dad without him even being around to impart those things to you. So anyway, think through what qualities your dad has or had, and what ones do you also have. I'll just take another like 10 seconds and think through that. As you do, I want you to remember the story of Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden. If you've listened to the podcast for a while, you've heard me talk about this a million times. I'm so redundant on this topic because I really believe it sets the foundation of the entire gospel. Like, it's hard to really understand the gospel message and the story of God, not just your personal story with God, but God's story with humanity as a whole. Like the scriptures telling an entire story from the front to the finish. It's really, really hard, in my opinion, maybe impossible to really understand that story unless you understand what was happening in the garden. But you remember Adam and Eve are in the garden. Everything's perfect. It's exactly as God has designed it to be. Things were going really, really well. That lasts for one page in the Bible. And then the serpent, the one who's more crafty than all the others, the scriptures say, comes up and whispers in Eve's ear and says, "Did God really say that you can't eat from any tree in the garden?" And what's fascinating about that is they're in the Garden of Eden. The Garden of Eden is plentiful with good food and fruit. Like, they can eat anywhere at any time. It's really, really good. And so the first time that we ever see Satan talk, he's lying. He tells a lie. God did not say you can't eat from any tree. That's ridiculous. Of course, that's not what God said. And actually, Eve corrected him. She said, no, God said we can eat from any tree. We just can't eat from the tree of knowledge of good and evil, or else we'll die. But what's fascinating here is that the first time that Satan ever speaks, we hear him lying. The first time that Satan is ever introduced in the scriptures, he is lying. And this is where you get John 8:44, which says, you belong to your father. This is Jesus talking. You belong to your father, the devil, and you want to carry out your father's desires. He was a murderer from the beginning, not holding to the truth, for there is no truth in him. When he lies, he speaks his native language, for he is a liar and the father of lies. Just so perfectly put. Who is Satan? He has been a murderer from the beginning. He's never holding on to the truth, for there is no truth in him. When he lies, he speaks his native tongue, for he is a liar and he is the father of lies. In contrast, you see the scriptures talk about God, or Jesus, quite literally the opposite. James 1:17 says, every good gift and every perfect gift is from above, coming down from the Father of lights, with whom there is no variation or no shadow due to change. So on one hand, you have the father of lies, the evil one, the murderer from the beginning. There's not a single piece of truth in him. He is the father of lies. And on the other hand, you have the father of light, who has no variation. He's the same yesterday, today, and forever. He is consistent. He's truth. He is truth. There's nothing in him that is not truthful, that is not perfectly and wholly truthful. He is truth. He is light. The scriptures tell us that one day we won't even need a sun, because when Jesus returns, his glory will radiate. Like, he is light and he is truth. There is no shadow among him. And so as a follower of Jesus, as a guy who's listening or watching to this podcast, and you are trying to become a man who is healed, who has found healing, a man who wants to become more like Jesus, more like the Father, then I'll ask you the same question that I started the podcast with, which is, which one are you more like? Or what's your father like? And what qualities of that father do you possess? What I'm trying to say is, there is a father of lies, one who has no truth in him. And there is the father of light, one who is only truth. And if you think through your life and your own personality, you have to ask yourself, which one are you more like? What father do you more resemble? And I know that's intense. That's like, okay, Jared, you're talking about the devil as my father. But I just like, the scriptures are super intense about this. Look at 1 John. There's this verse in 1 John 1:6-7 says, if we claim to have fellowship with him, God, and yet walk in the darkness, we lie and do not live out the truth. But if we walk in the light, as he is in the light, we have fellowship with one another, and the blood of Jesus, his son, purifies us from all sin. I'm going to read that again because I feel like, I might have come off a little too like I came out hot, and I didn't want you to feel like I'm just coming intense for you. But when you're thinking through, okay, I want to be a follower of Jesus. I want the Father of God to be my Father. I'm a son of God. I'm a chosen, delighted in son of God. I want to look more like the Father. When people look at your life, or when you even self-evaluate your own life, do you look like the father of truth, or do you look like the father of lies, the one who does not have any truth or light in him? So with that context, let me read one more time. 1 John 1:6-7. If we claim to have fellowship with him and yet walk in the darkness, we lie and do not live out the truth. But if we walk in the light as he is in the light, we have fellowship with one another, and the blood of Jesus, his son, purifies us from all sin. Many of you who listen to this podcast, if you've been listening for a while, you know that I've been doing this for almost 10 years. Last year, I stepped out for almost 6 months. During that time, I went to counseling, deep, intensive counseling. And my goal in that was to turn over what I kept saying, that I just felt like God was turning over every stone of my life. Every single piece of me, he had full access to. And, I've said that for years. I've been a Christian for a long time. I've been in ministry almost 20 years. And you say things like that, Lord, you have all of me. Come have your way in me. There, you can have every part of my life. But the truth is, I'll just speak for myself. That was not totally true. You can have every part of my life except certain parts of my life I'm not ready for you to deal with. And, this is common in the church culture, but you think through like a house. It's like, God, you can come and you can redecorate the whole house, but you just can't have that room. Like this particular room, I just need to hold off on that one because I'm not ready to deal with that room yet. And what's crazy about Jesus, he's not necessarily an interior designer. He wouldn't have like an HGTV show where he wants to redecorate your house or remodel. What's kind of crazy and frustrating about Jesus is he actually knocks the entire house down and then builds a new one. And so when you say, God, you can have all of my life, he's not just coming to like redecorate. So I found out. I just thought of that on the spot. That's why it's making me laugh. Yeah, he's not coming to redecorate, to kind of like shuffle things around. What Jesus does is he completely demolishes the old house and then he starts from scratch. He builds a whole new one. He takes dead things and makes them alive. And so there's so much of our lives that we just feel like, all right, Lord, you have all of me. You can have all of me. And the Lord sometimes I think will be gracious to say, okay, let me know when you're ready for me to have all of you. Let me know when you're ready to turn over all the stones of your life, to get into every nook and cranny. Let me know when you're ready for me to rebuild the house. And so all that to say, this last year, God in his grace knocked down the old house of my life and has started to rebuild. And part of that was during that season, I remember the first time I got into a counselor's office. So forgive me if I'm double storying you, if I've already told you this story here on the podcast, but I remember I got into the counselor's office and he literally, all he asked was, how are you doing today? And I started weeping. And there's part of me that feels like he was kind of taken aback. Like, are you okay? Like this is intense, but this, like your reaction is really intense. And he was just he was very calm and gentle. And he's like, what is that? What is that hitting? What nerve did that question hit? And essentially what it was is I had gone to counselors, I've gone to mentors, I've gone to pastors, I've gone to friends. And whenever somebody asks like, how are you doing? Or what do you want to talk about? Or let's kind of do some soul work. I knew in the back of my mind, there was like, we can get after some stuff, but not everything. I'm not ready to like turn over every stone. I'm not ready for you to get into every room. I'm not ready for you to get into every nook and cranny. And so, I, for lack of better words, or, to put it more bluntly, I had hid for a long time. And the reason I was weeping in that counselor's office is because I had made a commitment. I am going to be fully honest, fully transparent, regardless of what this cost me. No matter what, I want to be like Jesus. I want to be like the Father of truth, the one who lives and is light. I want to be like that. And I don't want to fake it anymore. I don't want to hide anymore. I want to be fully known, fully loved. And so when he asked that, it was like, okay, I'm terrified. The reason I'm crying right now is because I'm terrified, but I'm also ready. Like I'm just ready to do this. I don't want to hide anymore. And so part of that, and I've been removed from this for nearly a year now, removed from the counseling, that particular counseling intensive. And so it's harder for me to talk about it. I'm learning literally in the moment. But one of the things I did was I actually took a polygraph test. And I feel, even just saying that feels intense and weird and unbelievable. Honestly, I can't believe that that's something that I did. But I took a polygraph test. And part of the reason was I wanted for my own conscience to be able to say, like, everything I'm saying from here on out is the truth. And you can test it. Like, you don't have to believe me. Let's test it. Let's test that what I'm really saying is fully the truth. And from here on out, like everything I say, I'm committed to being a full truth teller, regardless of the cost. Radical honesty, no secrets, no shortcuts, no matter what. And you can test it. And after I got done with that and I passed, dude, that was the most like, maybe one of the most healing, there were so many things that were healing, but one of the most healing things in the world to finally be able to walk around as a man and say with confidence, I'm a truth teller. I am a truth teller. I'm going to walk around and the things that come out of my mouth are true. The way that I live my life is truth and with integrity. And everything I'm going to say, regardless of how hard it is to say, I'm just going to say the truth all the time. And dude, that gave me such healing and such confidence. And it's the first time in my life I felt actually more like Jesus and less like the father of lies. Now, this isn't, please hear me, this isn't like a salvation thing. You know, when I'm maybe it is. I don't know, dude. I don't really know. I'm not a good theologian. I don't really know what I'm talking about. I don't think it's a salvation thing. Like, I think, you know, you could be saved and you're still living a life with some shadows and some secrets and you're still going to go be with Jesus. I say that, but even as I say that, I'm like stumbling over my words because I look at this 1 John 1 passage and it says, if we claim to have fellowship with him and yet we walk in darkness, we lie and we do not live out the truth. But if we walk in the light, as he is in the light, we have fellowship with one another, and the blood of Jesus, his son, purifies us from all sin. So I don't know, you might have to take that up with your pastor or the Lord or something. But the reality is, like, when you are following Jesus, when you are closer to your Father, who is the Father of light and truth, you have to be a man who tells the truth. You have to be a man who is committed to not living in the shadows anymore. If you want to be a man who's a man of healing, you have to be a man who walks in the light. And I'm telling you, when you do, when you start to tell the truth, when you start to get to a spot where you have no secrets, when you can live a life of integrity, dude, your confidence is going to skyrocket. Your security is going to skyrocket. It's going to be through the roof. And there's this verse in Proverbs 10, verse 9 that says this: whoever walks in integrity walks securely. Catch this. Whoever walks in integrity walks securely, but whoever takes crooked paths will be found out. Oh man, some of your heart rates just went up a little bit. And I know that feeling. It sucks. And this is the Lord, like, this is the Father of light, just being a good father and correcting you. And he's not punishing. He's not trying to like come down hard on you. It's his love that says, if you walk in integrity, you will walk around with security. If you walk in crooked paths, you're going to be found out. And that's just the Lord in his grace saying, listen, I made the whole thing. Like, I made the earth, I made you, I know how you work, I know how humans are wired, I know how humans thrive, and I know how humans suffer. And if you want to suffer, if you want to walk around with insecurity, take the crooked path. If you want to walk around with security and confidence, live in integrity. And again, that's just God's grace. That's not him being mean. And so you, as a man who's listening to this podcast, whether you just stumbled upon it for the first time, welcome. We're Dad Tired. We're a bunch of guys who are trying to find healing so that we can lead our families well. Or you've been around here a while. All of what I've said kind of begs the question, okay, so where do I start? Do I just start confessing all my sin to my wife, to my family and friends? Do I just kind of tell my deepest, darkest secrets? And the answer is maybe. I don't know. That's probably not helpful, but maybe. Probably not to your wife right away. I've seen guys do this before where they just kind of feel this guilty conscience. You might be feeling that right now as you're listening or watching. You kind of feel this deep guilty conscience and you think, all right, today's the day. I'm just going to dump all my secrets on my wife. I don't think that that's helpful, actually, right now. I do think there needs to be a time where your wife knows all of who you are, for her sake and for your sake. Like, if you really want to be loved, you can't fully be loved until you're fully known. And so you have to be fully known. But I don't know if now's the right time to do that, to just kind of dump that on her. It actually can be really traumatic for your wife to just all of a sudden come home, or have you come home from work and just kind of list out all your deepest, darkest secrets. So what I would do in regard specifically to your wife is I would confess this probably to a friend, a trusted friend, ideally, who knows you and loves the Lord, and or maybe a counselor who can handle all that, who can hear all your stuff and handle it. They can sit with it and walk you through it, and then get a few steps down the road before you kind of dump all that on your wife. And if you're a wife listening, which I know there are a few of you who sneak into this podcast every week, maybe one, just kind of prepare yourself just say to the Lord, like, Lord, whatever things that my husband has that he hasn't shared with me, would you soften my heart to hear those things? Give me the right people to help me walk through whatever season that might look like if he were to come to me with some things. And then maybe even tell your husband, I know this is really hard, but maybe even tell him like, hey, if I just want you to know, I want to be a safe place for you and I want to love you fully. And I don't want you to carry around secrets anymore. And so if you need to go talk to a counselor about those things or a friend about those things, and eventually me about those things, I'm with you and I'm committed to you in doing that. Maybe before you do that, just like process with the Lord, really wrestle in your own heart. Is that something you are committed to and that you want to do? And what would it look like to prepare for that? Or maybe you're the one holding secrets and, you need to wrestle with the Lord on your own stuff and kind of just reverse everything I just said for yourself. So anyway, going back to you as man, like, where do I start? Don't go home and, dump this all on your wife, but maybe think through what friend do I have that's trusted that I could share this stuff with? I bet you most dudes can handle pretty much anything you would toss at him if he really is a good friend, especially if he loves the Lord. Certainly any counselor can do this. But here's actually a really easy way to start, because I know you hear all this and it's like, okay, I'm not just going to go confess my deepest, darkest sins to everyone. And then the fear is that you listen to this entire 20-minute podcast so far and you think to yourself, I'm just going to, that's in one ear and out the other. Like, I'm not going to do anything with it. Let's start smaller. Look at this verse in Luke 16, verse 10 that says this: whoever can be trusted with very little can also be trusted with much. And whoever is dishonest with very little will also be dishonest with much. And so maybe for you today, to become a more healed man, a man of integrity, a man who walks closer to the Lord and looks more like your Father in heaven. Maybe for you, it's just practicing telling the truth in the really, really small stuff, like really small stuff. And you just start to grow the muscle of being a truth teller in all things and just start with the small stuff. Layla, you guys know my wife, Layla. She's an oncology nurse and she works actually at 2 different hospital systems here where we live. And both hospital systems require her to get a certain license, a specific license. She works with oncology. She's in oncology, so with cancer patients. And both of those places require her to get a certain license to be able to work with this population in the hospital. And so she went and took the test, and both are basically saying, we will reimburse you. It was like a $150 test. And they both said, we'll reimburse you for this. Well, she came home and she's like, I paid $150 to take this test, and both have offered to pay, but that's not right. If I took both, I would obviously be up $150, and that's not right. And so we said, obviously we don't take it. We either will tell both of them, you can split it. I took the test and you guys can split it because I have 2 different hospitals asking me to do the same, or just have one do it and don't get paid from the other. That's the right thing to do. Where am I going with this? The point is, we just say yes to telling the truth in the very small things. And Layla and I, even since all the counseling and since I've been telling her, like, I'm going to be a truth teller in every little thing, radically honest in every little thing. We've just been committed, like the tiniest things, the tiniest details. If somebody drops a penny at a Wendy's drive-thru, and it's not mine, I'm going to pick it up and give it back to the right person because I want to be a truth teller in everything. And it kind of goes back to this verse in Luke 16. If you can be trusted with a penny, with $150, with whatever the thing is, and there are much, much bigger things that you are even today probably going to be trusted with, then the Lord can trust you with bigger stuff. And let me just kind of reverse that for a second. If you're asking God for more, just hear me for a second. If you're asking God for more, and I'm not just talking about money, a better marriage, your prayers with your kids, positions at work, whatever the thing is, financially, you're asking God for more, and yet you have walked in lies or taken crooked paths or not been full of integrity in the little stuff, I can assure you that God is probably not ready to give you more. And maybe today the conviction is, I'm going to start being full of integrity and honest in all the little things. Now, this isn't a spiritual math game. This does not mean, okay, I'm going to pick up the penny at Wendy's and give it back to the person. And God, you better give me $100. This is not spiritual math. This is not prosperity gospel. God is not here to, play these mathematical spiritual games with you. If you do this, I'll do this. That is not God's reputation in the least bit. But if you want to be a man of integrity, a man of healing, a man who's confident and secure, then start telling the truth in everything, in every little thing. Be a truth teller. When you do, your relationships will start to flourish. I promise you, as you start to become a truth teller, you're actually going to be refreshing to be around. When your friend asks you how you're doing and you're just honest, you don't have to be like overly dump, all this, confess all your deepest sins. But you're just honest. Like, I don't know, man, I'm kind of struggling today. I'm trying to figure it out. Not dramatic, not make everyone carry the weight of your sorrows, but just you're honest. As you start to become a more honest person, you're going to be way more fun to be around. People actually enjoy being around you, and your relationships will flourish, and you're going to actually inspire them to be more honest. Your confidence and your security will skyrocket. You will notice that you get a little bit of pep in your step. You will walk around with your head and your chin a little bit higher. I'm a child of God. I look like my dad. And what's my dad like? He's a truth teller. He's the father of light, and I look like him. I'm kind of like that, and I love that quality about him. And then maybe God will start trusting you with more, as he's given you little and seen that you can do right with little. I hope that this is helpful in your journey of becoming more like Jesus, to finding a little bit of healing so that you can lead your family well. Love you, brother. Thanks for watching.